Hello everyone and welcome back to the Stay On Your Bike podcast. This week's guest is super special for a number of reasons, and one of the reasons being the podcast is basically named after a famous downhill run that this week's guest did back in 2011.
That's right.
And I did the commentary along with Rob Warner. After a few too many beverages that afternoon, I might have shouted a few things because I was super excited with Danny Hart's run, which is one of the best downhill runs ever, arguably the best ever. And so yeah, super excited, and thanks very much for coming and being a actual guest in the show. Welcome, Danny Hart.
Thank you very much. It beats doing it over Zoom or Teams or whatever platform you use.
Yeah, well, we're not that professional, so that's basically the way we normally have to do it. But you know, with you being in the valley this weekend, you're good enough to come on and do it.
No, thank you for having me. It's good to see that you're doing this, and it's a nice little setup you've got, and lots of riders come through. So why not stop and do it?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We haven't done too many face-to-face ones, but it's cool that you've come in. And
thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, you know, how's the trip to the obviously you've been to the valley many times over the years.
It's been a while actually. Like, I haven't been here for a long time. I was saying to my wife yesterday, I don't think I've actually been here on a GT. So like last summer, like I don't think I came at all. So yeah, it's nice to come back, and I've never seen it so dry before.
No.
I'm sure I have over the years, but like not for a long time. Usually you're full waterproofed up and dripping wet, so it's been nice to ride like this. So yeah, it's good.
And it's pretty. We went out for an e-bike ride last night, didn't we? And it's pretty loose at the moment.
Yeah, it could probably do with a bit of rain, to be fair.
Yeah, don't say that out loud.
Just on a night time.
Yeah, just on a night time, a little sprinkle.
Yeah, it'd be good. Like the downhill trails up there are so loose right now. It's like today's like my final day riding before I go to Poland. So I'm always quite apprehensive riding here because the trees are so tight, and I guess the trees get tighter as they grow. So
and the bars get wider.
Yeah, exactly. So today I was like riding a different track that I've not rode for years. So it was good to learn a new track, because I always ride the same 2 or 3 tracks because I don't want to waste time, waste half a day learning a track.
Yeah.
But today, with it being quite a relaxed day on the bike, I set about a different track. So in future, I've got another track to go at. So it's good.
Good. And how are you getting on with the new bike and stuff? Obviously I had a quick peek at it before. It looks really smart.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's really good working with the team. We're always in communications on things to try and stuff like that. So it's really good. Good group of engineers, a good team behind me, and it's like a small family. Well, big family, I guess, because there's a lot of us, you know. So I'm really excited to go racing and see how it goes.
Brilliant. And you know, you're only 33 now?
I'm 33, yeah.
But you've had such a long career. It sounds, you know, 33 is still really young, really.
Yeah.
But you've been at it a long time.
Yeah.
You know, you've had an incredible career, and you've rode for a lot of different teams.
I have, yeah.
So, and what, you know, from day one when you popped onto the downhill circuit, you were super fast and competitive.
Yeah. It's funny because I've come from racing BMX, so I had like the good base, like foundational sort of skills. And I started racing like British cycling. It was actually here they did like a test with me when I was 2 years too young to race.
Okay.
So I did they set up a little track, and I had to do it to see if I was capable. And then they give me a license to race like a couple of years earlier than you're actually allowed. So I was probably 11 when I started racing downhill. And then from then on it's just still the same, you know, still riding, still riding the same tracks here. I love it, to be fair.
Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed with you. You know, I've known you a long time and seen you here and other places, and you always seem like you're still as keen as you were when you was a little kid. Like,
yeah, for sure. I'll go ride. Like, I was at Dovey last week, and I was like, today I'm going to ride with. I rode with Adam Brayton, good friend of mine. But I hate faffing.
Right.
I just want to get on my bike, start, and I don't like to stop and mess around. But that day I was like, I'm just going to ride for fun with my friends, and there's always some sort of faffing, like I'm ready to go, I'm stood there all geared up, and he doesn't have his kit on yet, and I'm like, come on, let's go. And yeah, because I just love it. So,
yeah. That's great, mate. That's what, that's why I think probably one of the reasons you're still as competitive as ever.
Yeah.
Well, so how old were you when you started BMX racing?
Jesus, I would have probably been like 8, 9 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not super.
No,
early.
I wasn't super. I did a bit of motocross before.
Yeah.
And then we were sick of travelling with motocross. We went into BMX. Travelling was like 10 times worse because you're like all the way down to like the southwest and all the way down there. Then got a little bit over that because like the north-south divide in BMX was just crazy. Like the southerners and the northerners, and it was always like hard work. It was like a caravan club.
And what was the like BMX organisation that in that era?
What do you like? I was racing nationals.
So what was that called? Was it UK BMX then, or had it moved on to something else?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. You're probably a bit young.
I just turned up and raced my bike. So I went to the Worlds in 2001.
Okay.
In Kentucky.
America.
And I
realised. Is that
realised
when Kyle Bennett won the elites?
Dale won.
Dale won that. Was that the indoor one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it was
sorry,
the
Dale.
worst track ever.
Yeah.
It was like a sponge.
Yeah.
And there's a funny story, like with all the stuff going on in downhill right now, like with organisation and all that, and like people threatening to potentially protest.
Didn't a few guys put the wheel over the gate and stuff like that?
So Neil Wood was the instigator, and he said he put his front wheel over the gate and said no one's going until we all agree to do the pro straight.
Yeah.
And the pro straight was, like I said, it was like a sponge. It was really hard.
Yeah.
I can't remember whatever happened after that, but
I think I remember that. And
then
Dale was doing the inside line, the non-pro section really fast, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on Nerve at the time, a yellow Nerve, I think he was doing.
Yeah.
I actually met Dave Mirror there as well.
Wow.
He was doing like a demo in the car park on the big vert ramp. So yeah, I went there, got absolutely schooled because all the Americans were so much better than bigger and stronger and just I think ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And then probably a couple of years after that, I think when I started doing downhill, because I was still so young, I was still like competitive in BMX at home, so that still took priority. And then within a couple of years, I just went to downhill. I mean, Oggy was like a big part of me coming to downhill.
Was he?
Yeah, because I used to think Oggy was amazing at downhill.
No way.
And he probably was towards me at the time.
Yeah.
He was actually riding for Giant, he was, and he was at Hamsterley, and
no way.
yeah, he was a big part of that. And then
brilliant.
Yeah, then sort of just.
And so how did you come across downhill? Like, did you just go? Did you have a mountain bike as well?
Not so much. No, I remember that a local shop built a Univega for me.
Right.
And I just started getting into it, and we went to Hamsterley when the previous owner had it, and then just
went. You preferred.
What's like crazy sounds. Like I've always been like quite competitive and quite good at it. So I've always, from a young age, potentially been like quite professional with it. So it's like, even though I've only been professional since I was left school, I guess, but like even the years before that, winning nationals and winning all that sort of stuff, like you were still doing it. Like when I went pro, if you like, my life didn't really change a lot to start with because I was already doing it to a high level. Like I was comparing times when I was younger to the elites and whatnot. And for a time there, like, that wasn't so much a thing, whereas now the kids coming through, like, juniors and that, super fast. It's a bit different again now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was talking to someone about this the other day. I mean, times have changed now, and even from when I remember you starting, I was kind of coming towards the end of my sort of downhill racing. I only did it for quite a short period really, because I started in my mid-20s. But you came through and you were like already as fast as a lot of the elite riders, and some of the stuff you was doing on the bike was that next level kind of thing. Like I remember in the UK, obviously Steve Peat was always at the top, but then Dan and G Atterton came along, and they were
pushing the boundary.
The G, especially Dan and G, but the level of stuff they were doing on the bike was like a
it was like a change in the guard sort of thing.
Yeah, I came similar to you, but the other way around. I raced BMX as a kid, but then I had a big break, and then I did some motocross.
Yeah.
But I think that enabled me to do decent at it straight away, because I had the BMX bike skills, but then I had a bit of speed from motocrossing. And I guess the same with you, like, because there's been some really good, talented BMX racers have come into downhill and not been able to do it. And I think maybe you've done the motocross and the downhill and the BMX, and that sort of helps.
I think BMX now, like people coming from it now, it's a different sport to what it was back then. Like with the tarmac berms and all, like I think like a BMX race now is almost won in the first 4 to 8 metres with the gates and everything. Whereas when I did it, it was, you still not all, you'd go to a track with tarmac berms and it's like, wow, look at this. Whereas now I think if it doesn't have a tarmac berm, it's like not even worth talking about.
And the berms are so big now, aren't they? The race doesn't really slow down, does it?
No.
That's where the passes were, where you had to go into a corner and lose your speed and stuff.
I actually went to Cardiff BMX track a couple of weeks ago, and I was like a fish out of water, to be fair. It'd been so long. That's like a... Go on. That's like a World Cup standard track. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I need to do more of this.
Yeah.
Because it was like riding a scalpel.
Yeah.
Whereas my downhill bike is the polar opposite.
Yeah.
And I think when I first came from BMX, for the first few years, you could see that I'd come from BMX. Like, used to spin a high cadence and a road like that, whereas now you would never know.
Yeah.
So it would be good to, like, they're just building a pump track in my town. It's just actually finished.
Right.
It'd be good to like get onto that and do more of that again, because that's sort of gone away as I've gotten older.
But I think, because I used to love going to the BMX track when I started mountain biking again, but the tracks were so different to now. You could kind of just go and have fun and like pedal, and the jumps were maybe a little bit steeper but much shorter.
Well, now you've got to sprint everything to jump everything. It's not a fun.
I wouldn't even be able to pedal fast enough to jump them. Whereas the speed that they pedal now is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like circus monkeys pedaling. I
mean, it's impressive, but I don't think you can just jump from doing mountain biking into going and having fun at the BMX track.
So I know you raced BMX. You've done BMX racing since in like the Masters and stuff.
Yeah,
and that always looked like it would be so much fun. And then after going to the BMX track the other day, I was like, I think if I wanted to do that and be remotely competitive, you'd have to go and do some work.
Yeah. Well, I actually, and again it's moved on again, but I, in 2012, which is, that's 13 years ago now.
It's mad.
But that was, years after I'd done BMX. My friend who was still doing BMX said, the Worlds are in Birmingham. Why don't you get your cruiser out and come and do it? And I was like, nah. And then anyway, and it was quite early doors after they built that indoor track.
So Perry Park was that? No.
So they built. It was in Birmingham in the NEC arena. Not the NEC. It was in an arena in Birmingham.
Yeah.
But they just opened maybe a year or two before the Manchester Indoor, and I hadn't actually been, other than going to like Coppell BMX track, I hadn't been to a BMX track since the mid 2000s.
Yeah, it's different experience now.
Well, I got to the indoor and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like, because it was so hard pack. The jumps were bigger than it was even,
And Manchester's super, like, I started going a bit on
I remember seeing you there, yeah.
And I thought it was brilliant because it was like a big pump track.
Yeah.
Because the transitions are super steep, aren't they, and deep.
Yeah.
And then everyone tells me, because I hadn't done any BMX, I just built a bike for that.
Yeah.
And all I did was go there on like a Friday night or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And everyone's telling me how gnarly that is.
Yeah.
But then maybe that year I started doing a bit. I watched the Worlds on TV and they were in America. And they were like pedalling the whole way around the track because it was so mellow. I was like, that looks absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise how gnarly Manchester was. And I don't think it is anymore. I think they've calmed it down a little.
But going off what you said, I was still riding bikes a lot. I wasn't racing competitively in anything really, but I was still riding a lot. But just going there and the 5 metre startle I was on, but that was still bigger than what I was used to. And then you had like quite a gnarly step up right out the gate. And man, I'd go there on I think it was a Friday night, and I mean, I was
gates with Oggy.
Yeah, obviously Oggy had never stopped. I was still on flat pedals, and everyone was clipped in and had got better at riding clips by then. So some of the guys that I would have been able to beat down the first straight before, I was struggling, and it was like frustrating. Yeah. And then I hadn't rode a BMX for a long time, so I was like not as confident hitting the jumps, with 7 people. And it must have took me about a month
to figure it out.
And I was really pissed off at myself.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't even important.
No. But it can be dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's like, I could have maybe done a little bit over the years, but the age groups are so big as well. It's like 17, what is it, 17, 24 or something?
I don't even know now, there's so
huge,
many.
And I would always be nervous that there's just a target on my back, so I never ever did it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, there's room for it in like my training and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's really good to do that stuff as well, because especially now, which we'll get onto, in the downhill tracks have changed from back in the day. That you watch, a good example is Jackson Goldstone.
Yeah. He
pumps the terrain so hard. He kind of looks like he's come off a pump track.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I watched like Tasmania Hardline, and like he's the smallest guy, but and then he had like the fastest speed through the speed trap in like the most, what you would typically think the big guys will get a move on, but he did.
We've come. You've been involved with the sport for so long, and you've had different competitors over the years. But as it evolves, the tracks have got faster and more man-made, I'd say.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but
we're still going to the same venues as well, and things have just gotten turned down. These big bikes are like the like here, for example, in Olethen, I'm riding a track today, which in 2007 I think they made it, like the Matador, when Red Bull were involved, and it was all these jumps and it was brilliant. Still riding that track today in 2025.
Yeah.
It's nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But the bikes are so much better. Like in Olethen would have probably been like quite a long track back in the day.
Yeah.
Whereas now you're looking at, granted when we're doing uplift here we don't go all the way to the top.
Yeah.
It's like between 2 and 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, I say back in the day, it's not totally back when I was younger, it would have been 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the bikes are so good and the tracks here are relatively the same.
Yeah.
It's
you've all got faster as riders. The bikes have got a lot better. The tyres are better, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I ride the trails over there, and I come down and I recognise bits, especially when I'm pedalling back up. But I recognise bits of the trail that I raced in 1997. The first time I really raced, and it's not that much different.
Well, I remember here when did you break your wrist or something on the road gap at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
They're
that.
really bad.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah.
I was coming back from injury, and I'd been off for nearly a year, and then I came back. And looking back now, I understand it a lot more. But at the time, just 'cause I'd had nearly a year off, and I came back and I didn't understand why I wasn't
straight after
just as fast as I was when I got injured. So I was trying to rush it and like
go for it.
I was getting really pissed off with myself, and our good friend Dave, that's not with us anymore, I was testing out a shop for him,
Romic,
and I was trying so hard, and I overshot the road gap thing, because they built a roller that's basically still there before the downhill, and so you jumped into that, so you had so much speed, and I kind of flat bottomed that road jump, and the Romic shock just blew straight through the travel, and my pedal hit the floor.
She's moving as well, going into it.
I went straight into one of the trees without braking or anything, and I mean, luckily, I don't really know what happened, but I snapped my wrist to pieces, and
I remember that.
Front wheel was wrapped round.
Was that on a blue
Intense?
Yeah, with Dorados.
Yeah. That was one of the final nails in the coffin for me for racing, and then I tried to do it again after that, and I had an injury that I got racing Steve Pete and Jewel. Actually, Steve knocked me off, and I did a scorpion, and I didn't know at the time, but I'd popped a disc out my back, and that was really painful for a long time. Then it got better, and then I never knew how bad it was, and I kept trying to ride and race, and it was getting worse and worse until I was in. I tried to go and race at Schladming World Cup, and it just completely went while I was there, and I couldn't even walk or get up, and I had to get in Will Longdon's van and come home in the bed, and that was it for me. Then I was like, I just had injury after injury, and I was already like, what I thought was I was getting to it was different then. I remember Warner telling me, "Oh, Pajo, as soon as you're 30, it's all over," and I was like early 30s then, and I thought,
he's right.
It's all over. But anyway, but that was. But like you say, that road jump's still the main feature over there, isn't it? It's crazy, really. But going back to you coming into the downhill scene, I remember everyone talking about you as you come off Matador and you go into that section with. I think it was a little bit different, but you've got a series of jumps, and
just
as
before
a tiny kid you were jumping right.
Because you used to come flying around the corner off a step down, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then there was a fly off the road.
Okay.
And people were going around it because if they jumped straight, it was just no good. But there was a bank on the left, so I jumped off that onto the bank, so it was like a landing.
Yeah.
And then off the jump. Yeah.
And how old would you have been then, like?
So if I started World Cups in 2008, that could have been 2007.
And you were on your Balfour then?
I was on it was called Appalachia at the time.
Okay.
It was after the Balfour. The same guy that did the Balfour went on his own.
Right.
It's a yellow one.
Yeah, I remember it being yellow.
I always had real trick bikes.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I never had your V10, or I was never on the premier brands, but I used to get really well supported by. Then it was actually Balfour and a guy called Jamie Lynn, who was into the big retro stuff now. He does all the retro stuff for Warner.
Okay, right.
That's what I see anyway.
Yeah.
And then I went from that to the next year would be Lapierre.
Okay, so I mean, and you know, looking back now, that Balfour was
Ahead
quite
of its time,
yeah. I mean,
it was with the high chain and
yeah. I mean, that wasn't even the you know, there was stuff like that back in the late 90s.
yeah,
And it's come
went
around
away
again.
and then come back, yeah, like.
And you know, and it's refined and stuff, but it's all the same sort of technology that's
Yeah, nothing's like ever been groundbreaking really.
No, not really. But obviously, so yeah, briefly. So you were on that bike, then you went to Lapierre. Then after Lapierre, Giant.
Exactly, yeah.
Then Giant to was it Monraker?
Yeah.
Then Saracen.
Yeah, and Cube.
Then
and
Cube.
No, then 1 year on the GT there.
You did a bit of testing on the Nuke
I
Proof.
did, yeah.
And then you're now on this new
Norco.
exciting Norco. So you've had a lot of different bikes, and you've done really well on basically every bike you've
Yeah,
had.
sure, yeah.
Is there been a bike that you've thought is better than everything
I guess
else?
it always reflects with the results.
Yeah, but sometimes you just...
Like I gelled really well with the Mondraker that 1 year where I
Yeah, you smoked everyone.
won 3 World Cups and then World
World
Champs. Like, yeah, that was a good little stretch.
And what was it? I mean, you're always up there, but what was it that made that stretch? Do you think?
I don't know, it's crazy. I just got on a good run. I'd had a good season the whole season,
Yeah.
and then I got that first win in Lenzerheide, and then obviously that confidence just.
Yeah.
And then I won on the Saracen,
Yeah.
which probably no one ever thought
Mm.
you'd be able to do.
Mm.
Then that was the end of the season, but that whole season, I'm not sure, but I was probably third in the overall because I was on the podium week in, week out, and then I got that win there, which, like, me winning sort of decided who won the overall with that Loic Armoury.
Yeah.
But I'd always been there or thereabouts all
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, once you get onto a good crest of confidence and stuff, you could ride anything really.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what I was going to say. Was there any bikes that you thought, you know, I've got the best bike, this is why I'm going to win, or was there any times where you thought my bike's not up to the job?
I questioned like my Cube.
Okay.
because, like on my final year with Cube, I was riding. I remember I was in Andorra, and I was like, I need to try like a standard off the shelf bike and my prototype back to back, and I was riding much faster on the standard bike, and they weren't re-signing me, so I was like, I need to.
Yeah.
Like, it
You
didn't
needed
matter
some
what they
results.
said at that
Yeah.
point. I was like, I didn't really care to upset the apple cart, and I said, look, I need to be riding your old bike.
Yeah.
And I was on for some really good results. Like, I was on a really good ride in Ludenville and crashed in the near the bottom there, and yeah. So then I was questioning the bike that they had. Got on the old bike and I felt like I was much better on it. Nothing really converted still, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then the GT was like a fight or flight thing.
Right.
It had to happen. Like, there was no questioning. Like, I worked closely with Dale, who you know well, Dale McMullen, and he did some work to the bike, and I put in some solid rides on that bike and secured myself a ride for this year, and that was a big thing. Plus, like, at one, like, I didn't make a penny from the team that year because there was just no budget.
Yeah.
Obviously, had my partners from over the years like Monster and
Yeah.
Adidas and few people, but from the actual team, there was no monthly salary or anything like that. But the moment that you're not there, you're not relevant anymore.
No,
so I had to make it happen,
Yeah.
And that's
Brilliant.
given me a 2-year contract here with Norco.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's all good.
And you know what, when you're feeling confident, you know, confident enough to win World Cups and World Championships, is there like a certain bike set up, or is it just that the bike doesn't do anything weird and you feel like you can ride to your best ability?
I'm not like super finicky with the bike. I like to try and get like a base setting and then just stick with it and go a couple of clicks here or a couple of clicks there. But now working with this team and having Greg on speed dial on my phone, it's quite intriguing. Like, he's constantly trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've done like a couple of little races, or not races they call them these days, and the one that we did in Portugal on paper result wise didn't go very well. So I was sat there like, Jesus, what's going on? Putting it on myself.
Yeah.
Because from a young age I've been competitive and been good. So like when it's not going good, I'm just really hard on myself.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I can get upset. I've gotten upset over the years, and like I'm always like my harshest critic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we were in Portugal and not once was it entailed to me like, what happened, Danny? Come on, like figure it out. Like it has done over the years. Like I've been.
What has other teams been like? That?
Your team manager doesn't really necessarily know what they're talking about. You can sense that they're upset and like they put it all on you. Like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, and not
they just think because you're Danny Hart, you can get a result, and they're paying you to get a result.
Exactly, yeah. And with Greg there, like it was not once, or any of the team, Alan, my team manager, and my coach, they weren't concerned. It was like, we've got some work to do and we'll all work together hard to figure things out.
Yeah.
So that was good, and I'm interested to see how the rest of the year goes.
Yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to seeing how you get on. And obviously you've got Kathy making some amazing food, and she's great on all the logistics and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Like what I've noticed is, should be obvious, they just want the best for the riders.
Yeah.
Like no end.
Yeah.
Like, and I've never really had that so much before.
Okay.
So.
Because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when you was on Giant especially, you know, you were the only English rider, and there was a lot of, I'd be walking down the track with my riders, and you know, your team all seemed to be just chatting away, talking about lines in Spanish, and you were kind of on your own.
It was a bit like that, yeah.
Right.
But this, like,
even though, like, in my mind, you were the best rider on that team, you would think that they would be concentrating. You know, obviously, as a team manager, you want to try and treat all your riders the same. But when you've got a guy that can actually win, you know, you've got to put as much, if not more,
emphasis
on that rider. You know.
Yeah, it's true. It's never something I really thought about, because I'm so used to just going about my business and doing my own thing. It's pretty much how I've done it all the time.
Yeah.
It's where I live. There's nobody that really rides, so I do a lot myself. Yeah. So
see, you go all over the place on your own, and that's really.
I don't mind. I just like riding, so that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, keep
not
it
a
going
choice,
that way.
Yeah.
And okay, well let's have a little talk about that. The reason why I've got "Stay on your bike" written on my jersey. I mean, that must have been. You know, there's lots of riders that have had amazing things happen in their career and stuff, but that's got to be one of the highlights of your career.
Well, that sort of made me to a point. It still pops up all the time now. Like, it's maybe last week or the week before, it was just doing its rounds again.
Yeah.
So, that was. I'd been building and building and building all the way until that race. Like, maybe only 2 or 3 weeks previous we were in Baldasol and I got second to Aaron.
Yeah.
And I knew going to Champery that was somewhere I can do well. And
do you prefer a steep gnarly track to?
That one, yeah. Like I went back there last year for European Champs, and that's a track where you can. They've moved the start back a little bit now, so when I won the race there, you could literally have no chain.
Yeah.
And do the same time as you could with a chain. There is literally no pedalling.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's it's maybe a little bit easier than it was, but it's definitely because I've just partnered actually with Champery as a resort.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we've just done a.
Just you or the team?
No, just me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I spent some time with Ben Walker, the trail builder, last week actually, and he was telling me how they had to make the track easier because they weren't getting any traffic because the track was too hard for people to come and ride as a bike park.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't take away like the steepness of it, but it is a little safer than it maybe was.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, that was 2011. In 2007, the first time they had
it was even more now. Yeah.
There was literally hardly any catch berms or anything. But then, I think then did they go back in 09?
They went back in 10.
10 was it? Yeah.
And then 11 for World Champs.
11 for World Champs. And the first year they had it in 7, it was absolutely horrendous weather halfway through the race, and then the weather was horrendous when you won.
It was, yeah.
But going into that race, did you feel like it was a race you were going to win?
Well, I knew I could, Like I'd had a good season. That year I got my first podium, and that was at Fort William, where I got second. Mm-hmm. How I got to the bottom on that day, I don't know, because it was a loose old affair. Yeah. And then again, I had more podiums, I think. I don't know off the top of my head, but then in Champery there I got, not Champery, in Baldasol a couple of weeks before I got second. Yeah. Behind Aaron. Yeah. I think actually in Fort William that year, Greg probably beat me.
Right, okay.
So that's how...
Yeah. And now
you know he's my boss.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's I definitely knew that the pace was there, and I just loved that track. Even like that whole week, it was just awesome.
Even on your race run, I think that's literally why me and Rob were so excited doing the commentary. It was a bit looser doing commentary back then with Freecaster.
How many people were in the booth then?
Do you know what? I don't even know, because people would come and go. And
can't do that now, eh?
No, and it was so loose with Freecaster. I wasn't really working for Freecaster like Rob was, but they used to invite me in, and then I used to love doing it, and then I ended up going quite regularly, I think.
Was that just for free? You just liked doing it, or what? Like,
I think it was just free. I think because I'd done commentary before with BBC.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And then...
That was a bit more PC though.
Way
BBC,
more.
imagine.
Yeah, they never used to bring crates of beer in the BBC commentary. But I did enjoy doing it, because I've always been, even when I wasn't racing, I still am a massive fan of the sport and stuff. And, by that, I remember lots of different people coming in throughout that day, but I think by the time you came down, I remember Stickman being in there.
Tippy was in there, wasn't he?
I think, he was definitely in there at some point. I feel like Bastard Beaver was in there at some point as well. But by that time, I think we commentated on the whole of the women's category, and then the whole of the men's category. So by the time you were ready to go, I probably had about 10 beers.
Yeah. I actually remember that day. Obviously, I'd done my time and sat at the bottom in the hot seat. Yeah. And I must have been guaranteed second, because Gwyn was probably the last guy down.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
He crashed. And I somewhat celebrated, but not because maybe because he'd crashed, not in a
No,
disrespectful
probably
way.
just because you
Yeah.
knew you'd won.
And I remember Dan Jarvis was there, and I like sort of jumped up, and he put me in my place and sit down. You don't celebrate like when they've crashed. I'm like, well, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's climbing back to the track.
Yeah.
I'm sort of world champion here, mate. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit strange to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit put out by that.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, but you know, going back to that run,
Mhm.
I mean, it was so exciting to commentate on because the conditions were.
Yeah, and you'd watched
horrendous.
everybody else
Yeah.
coming down. See, I hadn't.
Yeah.
So I didn't know
Yeah.
that everybody was
Yeah. So
falling down.
you just
falling
set
down.
off and you were just on a mission.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I shouted "Stay on your bike, Danny," I think it was where your back wheels slid off like a bit of an off-camber ledge,
Yeah.
and you were already about, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds up
Yeah.
at that point.
See, I just went about it like it was dry
Did you?
because it was that wet
Yeah.
under the water. It's clean
It's
and it's
grippy.
good. But previously that week, we'd wake up on a morning and it'd maybe drizzled a tiny bit in the night, or there was like morning dew on the track, and the track was
Slick.
terrible.
Yeah. I
Like you
remember that.
could barely get down, but you had to like be super careful.
Yeah.
And the final run before that,
Yeah.
I'd had a big crash, like smashed my rear mech off my bike. I've still got the bike. It's all like scratched up where the rear mech had been smacking off the
Yeah.
frame. But like this point I'm making is how slippery the track was before it had even rained.
Yeah.
So when it absolutely poured down,
You thought.
I got in the start line and there was a river running down the track, and I thought, right,
man.
well, that's it. It's
Yeah.
getting there, and
Yeah.
it's
It's going to be
go for
grippy.
it. And the thing with world champs is I don't like to swear, but it's like shit or bust.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still have that attitude now. Like
Yeah.
almost world champs is like pressure off a little bit.
Yeah. Because
Because
it's not.
you've
part
just
of the
got to
overall.
go do it, and what will be will be.
Yeah.
Whereas some people don't have that, and I think
Yeah.
the pressure gets to them for that.
Do you think that's why you get certain riders that, you know, you've got over the years, you've had certain riders that, first of all, back in the day, Nicholas Vulio was the man,
Mhm.
and he won a lot of World Cups, but he didn't win all the World Cups, but he literally won every World Championships he did, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, like we were chatting earlier, Aaron Gwynn was so dominant for a long time in World Cup. It was basically, you were expecting him to win, but he could never win World Championships.
No.
And same before that, Steve Peat won
Yeah.
so many races and never won Worlds until, that
Yeah,
one day he won it.
I don't know, to be fair, it's strange. It's just, I've won that twice, and
Yeah.
I've probably not even won, I've maybe only won national champs twice as
Yeah.
well, so it's like
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
yeah.
Granted, we come from quite a fast country, like there's lots
Yeah.
of fast guys, but like,
But, there's not many people win 2 World Championships, is there?
it's funny, I listened to a podcast with Burrell,
Yeah,
and I was like shot to pieces listening to this podcast, like how deep and how mental some of the stories and some of the things he was saying. And I'm like, I had to go on Roots and Rain or Google or whatever, like, to see like how much he'd actually won. I think he's maybe won. Did he win 2 world titles or a junior and 2 elites maybe? Either way, like, we've won around the same sort of things, and he does it in such a different manner to what I ever did. And it just shows there's more than one way to skin a cat. I was like, listening to him thinking, what have I been doing? Like, how have I even done what I've done? But I was like, just to say, like, there's so many different ways you can go about it.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell a story, to be fair. Like, I spoke to Steve about it, and Fabian told the story about in Ligier when he didn't qualify very well. He did that on purpose so that all the fast guys could see on the gondola when they were going up the time that Fabian had done.
Right.
And Steve went and put a semi-slick on
Yeah.
at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
and all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh Jesus Christ, I'm glad I wasn't around anything like that.
Yeah.
But you were, and you're a good pal with Steve, so you probably have your own take on all this stuff. But yeah, like these stories, and I'm just like, my mind was just blown. I was like, this guy's deep.
Deep, and I think probably, I don't know, but Nicholas Fulio was and I don't know if you realise, but Nicholas Fulio and Fabian Burrell lived in the same street.
I've been to Nico's house, and Fabian was talking about, there's 3 of them, isn't there? There's 3 world champions live on the same street.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've actually, when I was with Lapierre, I went to Nico's house and they said, there's 3 guys live here. And
they're all phenomenal bike riders and champions, but Nico did his thing, I guess, a little bit more like you, not vocal at all, just cracked on with his own thing.
Yeah.
I think he was really professional when he did it. He probably thought a lot more about it than maybe you do. You used natural bike skills to achieve what you've done. Obviously Nico's got them skills as well, but I think he was very calculated in what he did. Like, one interesting thing he told me when the Enduro World Series was here and we were all chatting after, he told me he never ever did a race run until after he finished racing, that he went flat out as fast as he could go.
Good job he's not doing it now.
Yeah, until after he stopped, because he said he always knew he could ride at like 90% and win the race, and then he said he did a race. I think it was a race, in their area in the south of France. After he sort of finished, and he put everything into it, and he said he absolutely smoked everyone, but he always was calculated, because some of those world championships he did win. If he had a road like that, he might have blown up and crashed and lost some of those.
There's a story, when obviously I was with Lapierre for 2 years, and he was big guy at Lapierre for a long time. I don't know whether he still is. But we went to Pay, and you'll have been to Pay with Chain Reaction, and probably a lot more over the years. And I'm like, right, I've been riding this track, I've done a few laps now. And Nico turned up and I said, oh, do you want to follow?
Yeah.
Thinking I'll go like hell here and try and impress him or even drop him or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just sat on my back wheel the whole way down. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
He's some boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
He over the years there's been some, very impressive riders, including yourself, but Nico's flipping out. It's hard to look past him, and there's all different eras of people, but it's hard to look past him as being one of the best ever.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so, anyway, back to that winning race in Champery. A word from our new sponsor. Action Sports Marketing provides flexible marketing solutions for brands and businesses, specifically in the cycling and extreme sports industry. They offer a wide variety of digital and other services like social media management, email marketing, paid advertising, graphic design, events management, content creation, ambassador and athlete marketing, and more. Packages are completely flexible and can start from as little as just 3 hours per week. Josh, the owner, has spent years working in the action sports industry as well as living a life immersed in the world and culture of extreme sports. Find your tribe and grow your brand in 2025 with Action Sports Marketing. Head to actionsportsmarketing.co.uk and get in touch using the contact form or email actionsportsmarketingco@gmail.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Action Sports Marketing UK. What I thought was so cool about that run was, obviously you'd done all the hard part of the track, you'd stayed on, you got into that final section, you had a massive margin, the race was won, but if that was,
But you don't know that when you're doing it.
I guess, did you not think this is going that well? I must be.
Well, I
this.
didn't know that anybody else hadn't done that.
So when you got to that bottom section with the big jumps and the features, like if that had been me, not that I'd be in that position, but I'd have been squashing those jumps to get as fast and low as possible. And you, which you probably saw on the commentary, you were just pulling massive whips as if you were riding in the Whistler Bike Park.
I'd maybe had 12 seconds if I hadn't have done that.
What were you thinking there?
It was just what I'd been doing all week. I'd been having such a good time on that track.
Yeah.
Like, it's not physical really, is it?
No.
It's like, it is literally just a good time.
Yeah.
I know, it's just...
So you were just thinking, this is going mint, I'm just going to throw some
Maybe
whips.
like, I can't think back to then, obviously it's a long time ago, but maybe I thought, bloody hell, I've got down here in these conditions.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, that was maybe it.
But that made the run.
Yeah,
Because,
it did, yeah.
you know, obviously the run was phenomenal, the time, the winning margin was phenomenal. But those moves you pulled on them jumps at the end, it just made the whole run, you know.
It was good, yeah, it was just...
And so, how did, you know, what you were young then, I mean, what...
I'd probably been 19 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did the team say after that?
I don't know, I was going here, there and everywhere,
Right.
Vegas with showgirls on each shoulder and all this stuff, which really wasn't my bag, you know. I was quite a shy kid.
Yeah.
And
So who took you to Vegas?
a giant.
Giant.
Travis Chipras, do you remember him?
Yeah.
Travis.
He was a top BMXer.
Yeah, and he was like big wig up giant at the time.
Right.
So that sort of thing is pretty his sort of MO.
California.
Yeah. So I went to Vegas at 19. Probably the worst thing you can ever do because you can't do anything. Travelled around, was at bike shows here, there, everywhere. Got out of shape. Come into 2012, not in the best fettle, but started to figure it out.
And you were still on Giant in 2000. And did you have a multi-year contract, or did that win like bump your salary up massively, or?
I don't think Giant were ever. They never paid the biggest.
No, I don't think they ever have they?
I can't remember exactly how it went, but they obviously looked after me for a few more years. And
did you have a big bonus for winning Worlds? Like?
I think so. I went home and bought a house, so it must have been something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't just blow money on fast cars or nothing like
lad.
that. I went and invested, if you like. I've still got the house now, and that was. Yeah, so it's a long time ago now. It's hard to even remember.
No way.
I did do it again in 16.
Yeah.
So.
And you that was another super impressive run.
Yeah, it was, and again, like somewhat similar to Champery.
Yeah.
It was a run that I could have done over and over. Right. There was no heroics or anything. Mm-hmm. And once you get onto those waves, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Like those 3 World Cups and then World Champs that I won, I don't ever remember there being anything spectacular. It was just good riding.
Yeah. And just you were confident in your ability and stuff.
Yeah, and then also when I won in 19 in snowshoe, it was just a perfect run, really.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, when you go, you know, you've been successful on most of the teams you've rode for.
Yeah.
When you change teams, does that give you more confidence, or does that put a doubt in your minds, thinking, well, can I do that on this new bike, on this new program? Does that, like, you know, how does that affect your mindset? Or does it not really?
It doesn't really. I just go about my business, try and go as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, like, say leaving Madison, going to Cube.
Yeah.
You know what's expected of you. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I potentially didn't really think about it like that.
Yeah.
But now, you do think about it, and so there is a bit more pressure like that.
Yeah.
But all you can do is what you can do, so... Yeah. And like it's never a lack of trying.
Yeah.
I think like say for example when we were in Portugal the other week and I didn't do as well as I would have liked in this race, I think what I could see was I wasn't messing around and I wasn't
not trying.
So then he put more effort into trying to help me out. So it's not like I'm just getting in the start and moseying on down and I don't care, it's just is what it is. Like, I'm like my harshest critic, so when they can see that it affects me, they really try even harder, which is good.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, if, you know, Greg's been, you know, he's had an amazingly long, successful career, but he's had his ups and downs.
Yeah, exactly. So he knows.
He's gone down in results, and you, as a fan of the sport, you've thought, oh, that's him done.
Yeah.
And then he'll just come back.
Yeah.
So he'll know that you're capable.
It's good that, like, there isn't really many instances like yourself. You're like a rider, manager, but like Greg is.
Yeah, another
Greg
level.
is another level.
Yeah.
And I've said it on a couple of these sorts of podcasts, interviews, like, I don't think I would have liked to have been, well, no, maybe I would have been okay, but because I'm like my own person, I don't really do much with anybody else so much. But when I've heard things over the years, Greg's not maybe the easiest teammate, but now, like we were talking yesterday when we were riding, it's 100% the opposite.
Yeah.
He's doing his utmost to help, whereas if you're coming in and you're Jackson Goldstone coming into the syndicate and you've got Greg, Greg's probably going to be more guarded with what he knows, whereas now it's the total opposite.
Yeah, he may as well give you every bit of knowledge he's got.
Because it looks good on him as well.
Yeah, because, you know, he's now not there to win racing himself, but he wants the team to win.
And I can understand where he comes from as well, because I'll go and watch my friends racing a British Championship motocross, and I'm not like at all in their team or in their corner, but I just want them to do so well for themselves, and I'll be watching, getting pure invested in it, and actually having a horse in the race. It's probably the next best. Well, it's obviously the next best thing to actually doing it yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
But you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've
like the feelings and the anxiety you must get standing at the bottom.
Oh, it's way different than you doing it yourself. Like, and I you know, I never got results that you got, but you know, I've had good days for me that I've been like super happy about. But I don't think I've been like, you know, I've never. You see some people, and you know, there's nothing wrong with it. Like they win a race or whatever, and they're in tears because of that happy and that relieved that's happened.
I'm not really that guy.
That's never happened to me, other than when one of my riders has won, and then I've been emotional.
Yeah.
Not for me winning.
Just the whole situation.
Yeah.
Like, without being like, well, I've won a few races, and over the years we travel to the races, me, my wife, and for a couple of years the kids. We'd go to the races in our camper, and I remember Lenzerheide, the first one I won. The next day I'm driving out there in my little Sprinter, driving to a toll booth, pressing the button and paying for my ticket, and it's like, yesterday I just won a World Cup, and today I'm driving off and like, almost my life's no different.
That is
weird.
It
was like a little bit strange, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the time you've won, there's all these people cheering, and it's like a different world, isn't it?
Another thing I did it must have been Champery. Obviously it was monsoon, the weather was biblical, and at the bottom there of the race, thousands of people, insane race, I win by 11 seconds, and yada yada yada, press conference, people everywhere, and everybody goes home or goes and parties. Then the next day I had to go back to the venue to get something or whatever. Yeah. And it was such a weird feeling being, there's rubbish everywhere, and there's, you know, all the
people have gone.
Yeah, and it was just like, whoa, this is strange. Yeah. Like, this was the height of excitement yesterday, and then 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and now it's like everyone's packing up and going home, and that's it, it's done. Yeah. It's quite strange, to be fair.
Yeah, it is, and that, you know, like I say, I've never experienced that myself, but I remember I was I was the year that Chris Kavarik won Fort William by 14.5 seconds. He was staying with me at the time. I actually was sharing a house with Dave in Chester, and we were driving back in my little Sprinter. I think in my little Vito.
Yeah.
I think it packed in on the way home.
Yeah, like total reality.
But we were driving back the next day. Obviously, there was the race. Chris had flipping won by miles. We were all celebrating, partying at night. Chris is absolutely wasted. We're all wasted. And then we were driving back the next day, like pretty quiet because we were, all a bit hungover. And Kavarik just come out with, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was just like, why was everyone making such a big deal over that race? And I just looked at him, and I was like, I thought he was like taking the piss, but he just went, I just rode my bike down the hill. I said, dude, you beat everyone in the world by 14.5 seconds. And he didn't think it was that special.
Because he's just a normal, well, he's not.
He just thought it was
a normal fella.
Yeah, he said, I just rode my bike down the hill like any other day.
But he won before that point.
Yeah, he actually, so the previous
he was on a tear that season.
He won 3 races like you, but it was the final race in Mont St Anne in 01.
Yeah.
So, then it was the first race in 02
that's good,
and the second race in 02.
And then he got injured, did he?
And then he got injured, yeah. But yeah, it is you're at the highest level of achievement and buzz and everything else, and then the next day it's back to reality.
Everybody blowing smoke up your ass.
And I guess it's not quite like it's not. Mountain biking isn't in the like the media like football matches, is it? Sure. In everyday life. Like if you'd have done that, if you were a footballer and you'd have come back home, there'd have been people mobbing you.
Yeah, it's like you've won the World Cup by 6-0.
Yeah, and then you're coming home to all the people, whereas most people don't even know.
Top bus tour around Redcar. Yeah. I don't think it would have really gone down too well.
No, but. So, one other question, well, a couple of questions about the teams. What team have you enjoyed being on the most? Obviously, you've got a new team, so you've not experienced all of that yet, but what team would you say you've enjoyed the most so far?
So far? Well, Giant, I was there for a few years, so that was 2010 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And that went through a couple of different iterations.
Mm-hmm.
I came onto the team and I was like a last minute signing, if you like. Mm. And I wasn't meant to be like the number one guy.
Right. Who was the number one guy?
Duncan Riffle.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever beat me.
No. I don't think he was quite another great rider, but not quite in your league.
No, and me and him, he's not really my type of person.
A lot different to you.
Yeah, so then, he was super picky and wanted his posh shoes with his blue laces and yada, all this carry on, and it's just like...
And does that do your head in, or does it...
I just laugh. Right. I'm just like, it's just never going to happen for you here, is it?
Yeah.
And so that was 1 year with him. And maybe it wasn't so bad the first year, but then Needles came onto the team.
Yeah.
And him and Needles were like best buds.
Right.
And then there was me, so it was him and Needles and me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, maybe Needles beat me here or there, but maybe not, I don't remember. But
not very often.
Him and Duncan were best pals, Needles would stay at his house in what Duncan would call Paradise of Santa Barbara.
Mm.
That's pretty nice, but let's be humble.
Yeah.
And so then that was really tricky for me because I was like the third wheel, if you like.
Right.
And then Duncan.
Do you think they were a bit jealous of you? What do you think?
Oh, potentially, just different. I was just all about riding my bike, and they were a bit further on in their career, if you like, potentially.
Yeah.
Then when Duncan got dropped from Giant, it was just me and Needles, and we got on like a house on fire.
Okay.
So then me and him had some really good times, like stayed in SoCal, and I travelled around a little bit with him and did a little bit like that, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
So that was probably a real fun time.
Yeah.
And then over the years, like since then, I've travelled with my wife, and that's really cool. She's travelling around Europe.
Do you prefer it when you family's there? Does that give you an incentive to do better on the day, or?
I don't know if it gives me an incentive to do better. I'm not consciously, but like in between races, we wouldn't go home. We'd just travel around and ride different bike
so you're
parks.
Not rushing backwards and forwards.
Yeah. And then I've had some good teammates over the years. Like I was teammates with Matt Walker.
Yeah.
Teammates with Max Hardenstern at Cube, and me and him got on really well.
Okay.
It's always been tricky though, because I've always been the one getting chased.
Yeah.
Like, didn't start it at Giant, but became it.
Yeah.
Then went to Mondraker, and Laurie came on the team a year after I did.
So you've been the number one rider.
Yeah, I'm always like the one being chased.
Yeah.
So that always gets, like, I'm quite competitive as well, so that always gets funny.
Does that, do you feel pressure from that, or?
Well, over the years, like coming from motocross and like motorsport, you always want to be like
the top dog on the team.
Boy on the team.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, it's been good. Like last year, it's hard to put a finger on one team that was the best. Because last year with Mark and Chris coming on GT with next to no budget, and we had some real fun times.
Yeah, yeah.
There was also some tricky
Nice
times
people.
with teammates, and yeah, it was some hard yards there. But we had some good times. Both travelling around in our campers, and like I said earlier, I made it happen, so that's good. But then now it's super early doors still, but it seems like a really good family atmosphere and a good vibe. So
yeah, it sounds like
it's hard to answer your question with one.
Yeah,
team.
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Is there over the years? You know, obviously I think you don't. It's, to me, it doesn't seem like people get to you that much. You know, certain riders and stuff. But over the years, when you've had different competitors, different years, has there been any riders that you really don't like getting beaten by?
Yeah, well, for those few years when, like, there was always a bit of a rival. Like, I always wanted to beat Josh.
Yeah.
Like, me and
From
Josh.
early days.
Yeah, we came up from young age. Josh was obviously mentored by Steve, so he had all, like, Royal Racing and was on the Steve's program. I was just going about it just with my parents, doing my own thing. And Steve got on, Josh was on the syndicate, I went on. Josh sort of went faster than me for a few years, and then whatever happened, and me and Josh, there was always a bit of a rivalry there. Josh is like a joker, and I was always like on the raw end of his jokes, and you'd rock up to a lift line and he'd be stood there with his pals, and he'd be skitting you, and I was just a quiet kid, and he was super witty, and I honestly, it was pretty tricky sometimes. Okay. And then as we've gotten older, he's got a kid and married, and now like, I haven't seen him for a while, but like we message from time to time, and it's much more like real now. Yeah, yeah. And
I mean, I think especially when you're younger, and you know,
I was quite sensitive when I was a kid, and
but you know, it's kind of like being at high school. There's
he was
the popular
cool
group
guy.
Kids can be mean to the other kids.
And that's somewhat what it was like. You were around, so you know what Josh is like. So I always wanted to beat Josh.
Sure.
And I think we were
both amazingly competitive, and
And then nowadays, like, there's not one person really anymore.
No.
like, I wasn't really that intimidated by like when I was coming in, 10, 11, like G, Stevie, Greg, Steve, sorry if I miss anyone, Sam, they were all big guys, and I was just a kiddie coming in, just throwing caution to the wind and just trying to beat them. Yeah. And I would like to try and bring some of that back now, but it's tricky because I'm not a kid anymore. But
no, but you know, you've got even last year on Mark's programme, you know, at Worlds, you were really close to winning Worlds again. Yeah. I know a few of you were, but you literally right on the money there.
Funny story there. I thought I had a flat tyre at the top, so I must have let up a tiny bit, consciously thinking, oh, it's done, it's over. And a couple more corners go, and I'm like, it's not. And I get to the bottom and I lose it by, I can't remember what it was, less than 0.3, and I'm like,
no way.
Sophia was fuming.
Was she?
But I did what I did on a privateer. Yeah. Not privateer, but almost as good as. Yeah. And,
it just shows, doesn't it? I mean, some of the, and you know, you're on a great programme now, but some of the programmes that you were competing with last year on Mark's, and Mark, you know, done the best he could, but some of the setups and
that we're competing with, I know what you mean,
is insane. Yeah. And you know, tell us a little bit, because I'm interested. But prior to that, and prior to all the the chain reaction nuke proof thing going down, you were doing some testing on the nuke proof bike. Yeah, how did that bike go in training?
It was good. Yeah, I did a whole month in New Zealand on it. Yeah. And I was ready to go, and then you know more than I probably do, but like I was gutted when that went away because we'd gone quite far down the rabbit hole, and like I said, I went to New Zealand for a month on that bike and felt good on the bike, and it was all just pulled from under us. As I was nowhere near as invested as you and some of your guys on the team, and it must have been tricky seeing me riding one thinking, I wonder what's going on here, and we did that as a risk because we thought it was going to come around, and for a moment there it looked like it was, and then it all just got pulled from under us, and I think
same here. Yeah, I mean, I know internally in the Irish office where nuke proof is based, that all them guys were really excited that you were going to be riding the bike, because our team, it was a little bit strange for me for a while there, because I started the team for Chain Reaction, and then part of the idea came from me to make our own downhill bike, because I was like, well, we've got the resources, you're paying for the team, you've got the name, why don't we make our own bike, and then the team can promote the bikes. So and then nuke proof grew and grew. Then it got to a point where I was talking to Michael, the team was really good, but we weren't getting many we had a few podiums, but we weren't quite on the podium and winning. I believed that the bike was good enough then, so we internally we discussed that we needed a top rider. Yeah. So the extra investment got put into the team to look for a top rider. That ended up being Sam. Yeah. And then for the first 2 years,
he was flying.
People were saying to me, what the sport's like, and I'm sure you've had it. Why are you sponsoring Sam? Because he hadn't won or been on the podium for a few years, and they were like, why are you bothering sponsoring him? But I knew if he was in the right headspace, he could still win or do well. And he was such a big named rider.
Well, he was on to win Worlds again, wasn't he? And then it all went.
Yeah, just crashed in that rock garden, and just prior to that, we had he won 2 World Cups.
Maribel
and Mont Saint Anne. I mean, Mont Saint Anne was a huge one for me, because it happened. It was all the hype with Sam, a bit like what you were saying before, the cool cool people.
Yeah.
You know, Santa Cruz and Specialized launched their new carbon bikes that weekend, and all the hype was around that.
And Sam went
Sam
and did it on the, what bike was
wings
that?
on a nuke-proof Pulse, a
Pulse,
square one.
Yeah. Big everything.
Yeah, but
He
you loved
it.
that bike.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. So then, anyway, long story short, Sam got injured right before the next season. We had a new bike that we just made. Might have gone the wrong way. You know, we were trying to make it lighter and stuff like that. Looking back now, I think that probably wasn't the right thing to do. But at the time, everyone was trying to make the bikes lighter. Sam was injured, and then it just kind of went downhill in the downhill. He lost his confidence. He lost. I think, like I was mentioning earlier, he tried to come back racing too early after an injury, and you know, because he was getting paid and felt like he should be there. And anyway, we ended up going down the enduro route, which for us worked out really well. You know, the brand really grew. We sold a lot, you know, because you sell more trail bikes than anything else. Yeah, so you know, we had real good success with the enduro riding, racing. You know, Sam, from being really, you know, really down on himself, to be honest, with the downhill, and I don't think he really could figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
So we went over and tried some enduro, and at the time enduro was, I know quite a lot of the downhillers didn't think it was a big thing.
I don't think anybody thought Sam could go and do enduro. Like, I think everybody assumed he wasn't the biggest
pedaler. Yeah.
But he could. You wouldn't have thought Sam was on flat pedals when you watched him pedal.
No, he was
I think he'd done a lot of work.
Efficient pedaling.
Someone told me he used to ride a fixie to get the circles, like pedaling good.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure who it was, because, you know, over the years Sam had some different people that helped him with his training and preparation. 'Cause Sam's quite similar to you in some respects, that he's just a good bike rider, and he doesn't look too much into it, but he's very clever at knowing things. But he just likes riding a bike and he's good at it. But I know Scott Sharple's helped him in the early days. But then he also had another trainer. Do you know Jacko, who rode for Nuke Proof for a bit, that does all the flips in New Zealand and stuff?
Yeah, I see him in
so
New Zealand.
his dad was a track cyclist.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he trained Sam for a while, and I'm not
He's
sure.
A nice unit, is old Jacko.
He's a sound kid, like. But
he comes to Queenstown and not ridden his bike probably since Queenstown
last
previous year. Flips big dream at like Magaza Fest, and is just like
he's
off
a
his
wild
head.
man, isn't he?
Yeah. So his dad was training Sam a bit.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was him or Sharples that did the fixie thing, but to get Sam, and he reminds me of, do you remember how good Dylan Clayton was at pedalling?
Mm-hmm.
Dylan had the perfect circles for flat pedals, whereas I've never been in. I just stomp. It's so hard to do circles.
Duck foot stomping.
With no power, so it was never any good for me. But like you say, Sam's really efficient on the flat pedals, but the enduro tracks, when we started doing enduro, some of the tracks were so gnarly.
Like old downhill tracks.
Gnarlier, like so gnarly that like you were scared to actually ride them, and to that Sam's just in his element. He's so balanced on the bike. He was pulling lines off that the enduro guys just couldn't even do, and he
couldn't even see.
But he was so smooth. He didn't have to ride at the intensity to win a downhill World Cup, but he saved so much energy in that difficult stuff and carried so much speed. He had the energy to, then if there was a big sprint up a fire road, he could do it.
I think that's gone full circle now, though. I think from what I can gather, to win a stage on AWS, you're putting your life on the line like you are in a downhill final.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane
how
close it's got.
Done them here, like in the Tweed Valley, but I've never done a big one, like a broad one.
I mean, it's a shame that the sport's gone the way it has at the moment, because the top enduro riders, they're so impressive on how fast they're going. I mean, you know, the downhill winning margins are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Last year,
Yeah.
after a whole day, it was
Yeah.
hundredths of a second between the top two, top three even.
You just can't really watch it, can you? That is the neither of it, I guess.
That's the issue. It's kind of like a, you know, Formula One. You can see the whole thing,
Yeah.
whereas probably rally's more impressive, but you can't see the whole
No,
rally.
it's
Can
true.
you?
You're right. Yeah.
It's a similar thing to that.
Yeah.
Same with, you know, I've recently started riding motorbikes again, and I really enjoy watching the enduro GP stuff.
We're just watching highlights.
So good,
Yeah.
but it's just little snippets you see of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, so yeah, but like I was saying, you know, we went that direction with the enduro. I always missed doing the downhill, I'll be honest, but I was trying to do what was best for our team and the sponsors and Sam, because Sam was our big paid rider. And you know, Elliot was starting to do good at downhill. He got third in the junior overall, and then the first year he did elite. He got some top 25s, and then I had to say to him and Mike Jones, look, we're going to have to go full enduro. What do you guys want to do? Mike was like, no chance I'm doing enduro, because it wasn't for him. Elliot took like a day to decide, but he just loved the team and the program, and I, you know, looked after him since he was 16, and he said, well, I'll just come and do enduro. And you know, first of all, he had a good year in the under 21s, and then he ended up winning the world title when Sam won his second world title. So that was going amazing. The brand was buzzing, everyone was buzzing.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and that just ruined Sam. Like,
he went home and that was it.
I don't think he rode his bike all year, which, you know, you can't. I think he'd done it for that long. He just thought, you know what, Sam needs like a goal to train for, and then he'll get after it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need someone to hold his hand when he's training. No. But if there's no goal, it's not that. I
don't think he's in the best place for riding neither, from what I can tell. He's obviously made it work over the years, but I don't think it's...
No.
Yeah.
So, anyway, then obviously, you know, the guys at Newproof are still dead into downhilling, and you know, especially Dale and Michael and that. And then
that's the thing.
The other team started as a privateer team, and then obviously they had mad success with Ronan, and so that kind of happened. And then I'll be honest, from the outside, I was like, well, are we not going to go back to downhill? And they already had that other program, so it was a bit strange for me. But you know, that's the way it was. And then obviously, you know, everyone was excited that you were going to be riding a Newproof. I was excited to see how you could do on it. And then unfortunately, it all kind of went away.
Yeah, it was sad. Like, well, there's nothing else you can say. Good for them, I guess. They've found a new home.
Yeah.
With whatever is going on.
Yeah, Dale's got a job, and I think Steve and a couple of other people. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And so, you know, looking forward now, I mean, you know, Greg, what's Greg must be what?
He's 10 years older than me.
Yeah, he's exactly. 10 years younger than me. He's 10 years older than you.
Yeah. There's not much in between me and Greg. There's not many people in between.
No.
So, like, through all these hard couple of years when everyone's like, oh, I was old. Greg had 10 years on me.
I know.
So there's like a window there where everyone, you're old, you're done for.
Yeah.
It was quite frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I've like been quite good injury-wise. Like, I've never touched wood, I've never had a huge injury.
Yeah.
And I don't think Greg had huge injuries, like a few shoulder issues and things like that. So
yeah. I mean, I think if you're, you know, I think your riding ability and the way you ride a bike, most of the time you look like you're in control.
Mm-hmm. Until you're not.
Until you're not.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of people that ride above that limit
Threshold,
and have massive crashes, but they can win if they don't.
But I need to try and do that a little bit, I think.
Well, I think nowadays, you know, in current times, you've got Amory that's put down some really good runs. I mean, a couple of years ago, Thibaut Deprilla was insanely fast, wasn't he? And but so loose. It looked like he could just explode at any moment.
Often does.
And there's always those exciting riders, whereas, you know, now you see, you know, Jackson's come along and he just looks like he's in control and having fun, but he can, you know, Bruni, apart from Worlds last year when he was proper pushing, you know, so there's a lot of really good riders now, including yourself.
There is, right, and that's when you've never left it or never been away, you struggle to see that.
Yeah.
So, it sounds cliche, but it's so deep right now.
Oh, I mean, coming into this season, I'm not involved in any of it, but I'm just as excited to see what happens than if I was involved in it, because, you know, if I listed the people that I think had a chance of winning the first World Cup next week, including yourself.
Yeah, you wouldn't have enough fingers.
No.
You have to go to your toes.
Insane, yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
And, you know, only, you know, we don't have to wait too long to see what will happen. But
you can all sit on your sofa and watch it all unfold.
Well, we can't, because it's £30 a month. I can't afford that now.
That is a bit shit, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to go out of Stevie's
house. That's another conversation.
Yeah, for another time.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say, you know, obviously you're at this point in your career, you know, you could have another 10 years at least, like Greg did.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, hopefully you'll be on this team for a long time and it'll be successful and you can have a bit of consistency. But, you know, you've already won so much and done so much. What's your goals from here on out?
Well, it's been a while since I've been on the form of what I have previously.
Yeah.
So my goal is to try and be fighting for podiums. And when you're doing that, you're there to win.
Yeah.
But it has been a tough. Last year, obviously, I nearly won world champs. It's still there.
Yeah, of course.
But I just need to. I want to be consistently. Well, podium's 3 now, isn't it? But top 3, top 5 would be brilliant.
Yeah.
And I believe with the team I've got, it's possible.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how it goes now. Obviously, we've got 10 races. There's no protection.
Do you think that's better having 10 races? Is that better for you for an overall?
It potentially gives you the chance to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Whereas 7 it was last year, I think. The moment you make a mistake, it's all done for. But now we don't have protection.
Yeah.
So I was speaking with Reece Wilson today, and nobody knows how it's going to turn out.
Do you think that's better? Do you think that's better for the viewers and
it's
worse
better for the viewer? Obviously,
rider?
for the rider, it's not as good. But not that we're just here to conform with all of the sports. It's not like Roger Federer never had a bye into the final at Wimbledon, did he? So I understand why it's not a thing anymore. But
do you think
I do believe it came in because of people not cheating, but playing the system with the rain.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll start. Well, that can't happen now. No, it can't happen now.
No.
And I was saying with Reece today, you need to go good, full gas, to even be qualifying out of the first one.
Yeah.
Because
this year
no
now,
messing around.
It's going to be 20 qualify straight through to the final.
Yeah, then 10 out of an LCQ, I think.
Okay.
Or Q2, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
I think that's a 30-man final.
Yeah.
And there's no protection.
No.
So
And do you, you've been at it a long time. Do you think that's better for the sport, or did you like it where it was just like top 70 made it through to the final and that was it?
Yeah, I've been through. It was top 80, wasn't it, to start with? Then it went to 60.
Sorry, it was 70 when I did it. Then it went to 80. Then it went down to 60. Yeah.
No, it's 30. I don't really have.
You're not bothered.
No, like
because you're capable.
I've missed the final twice. Once I crashed, and last year in Ligier I was just not good enough.
Right.
And that's, for me, that's like the only time I've missed. Well, obviously crashing, you're not good enough because you crashed. But last year in Ligier, for me not to qualify, just because I didn't go fast enough, was like, whoa, like this is real now. Like you have to put your best foot forward every time. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And I think in the future they only want to take it to more rounds.
How many rounds do you think it would be?
Well, I think 10's good, to be fair. Like that's 3 more than what we did last year, because we're not going to get paid anymore.
I know.
And they're just going to expect more.
Yeah.
And the budgets are not going to go mental anytime soon. And if the rumours are true of where they want to take us, I don't know how the teams are going to do it.
I mean, we could do another podcast on all the politics, but I don't understand why the teams have to pay to be a team. I think at least it should be free. Yeah. Because the teams are the people that are paying all the riders, paying for all the staff to make the races. Yeah. I don't understand how a team has to pay to be there. Yeah. But that's that's how it is. But do like for you yourself, would you like to see the World Cup more globally around?
It would be great. It's never been, in my whole time of doing it, I've been to Australia a few times, South Africa. Them are the most exotic places, if you like. It's never been a true World Cup. Yeah. It's like a wet cup in Europe because it rains every weekend, and then you go do 1 or 2 in North America. Yeah. So it would be good to see some of the world, but we'll just have to see what happens. And
where do you think it's gonna go from here? Do you think it can be more mainstream, or do you think it mountain biking is basically
core
and
I don't even know. I don't even want to think about it. Right. Like all the stuff that's gone on over the past however long, my attitude is I'll keep my head down, pushing on, and what will be, will be. I would like to see it less core, if you like, but like it's like this conversation about the Olympics. Like I'm sort of glad it's not being Olympics, because I look at BMX and it's a totally different sport to what it ever was. Yeah. And super cutthroat, like you can take 1 or 2 people from your country and it'd be hard for us. Like we've got a country of, we're not like we were maybe 10 years ago, like we could lock out the top 5 of the top 10, but there's still some fast guys.
And do you think, like, obviously, I think, I used to think this back in the day when I was racing, like, because where I lived, we didn't even have any hills, and I'd come to Scotland and think, why is there not more fast Scottish riders?
Yeah, I think the thing with it is, like, these people, like, I always use Whistler as an example. There's so many kids in Whistler. Yeah. And I think more so over the past few years, there's some fast kids come out of there, but over the years, there hasn't been a great deal of people come out of there, but I think it's because they take it for granted. Yeah. Like I travel here 3.5 hours to ride for a day. Yeah.
But when you come, you
don't. If it's raining on the morning, oh shit, it's raining, I'll get my jacket out. Yeah, yeah. Not like if I live in Whistler and it's raining, I'll just ride tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. It's like you get out there and you do what you have to do.
Or you get to the kids in Whistler are hitting all the big features and they're amazing jumpers and stuff nowadays. But that maybe, you know, that's different to racing a World Cup,
the
innit?
fundamentals aren't the same anymore.
But what I was getting at was obviously, you know, Jackson Goldstone's a good example of it can work from there. Do you think, like, now with you know, you've got a bike park, you've got Dovey Bike Park, do you think
there should be
that's
some
going to bring some
coming out? You'd hope so.
But do you think it's got...
But it's different, isn't it? It's a different, like, you go to a bike like Dovey now, and some of the things you see, like, it's like single speed bikes.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that. Yeah.
Jeans and...
Yeah.
There's a whole different side of it now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see kids... If you see a kid and he's fully got all his race gear on and his jersey and his... looks the part, everyone's like, what are you doing here? Like,
yeah.
where'd you been?
Yeah.
It's like when I go there, obviously I travel 4.5 hours to ride there, and I'm like, racer boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've come a long way. I'm not just gonna sit behind matey boy that's making 15 turns in a straight line. I'm here to ride.
Yeah.
And for me, I only have fun when I ride fast.
Yeah.
It's tricky, like, for me to just sit behind people and
do some whips.
Yeah, it's like, that's fun, but like, I'd much rather get moving.
Yeah.
It's so tricky. The vibe in these bike parks is a lot different to what it was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like my bike park, like Hamsterley, is a much more downhill bike park. We don't have the big floor lines.
Yeah.
Partly because we're a small bike park, we don't have the means to build the... We do have one big jump line.
Yeah.
But we're on the forestry. We lease the land from the forestry, so there's some tread tape. Yeah. But we have downhill.
Yeah.
And people are nervous to come, but there is tracks for all abilities. But like at the top section of Hamsterley, which is like flowy with jumps, then you get into the bottom section and it's like you could get those sections in a downhill World Cup.
Yeah.
Granted, they might only be for 5 to 10 seconds.
But it's still
it's proper downhill
sort of stuff.
Whereas these other bike parks, like, obviously they know where the money is and people want the floor lines and all that, but there's not much downhill. Like here is downhill still. Yeah. Because it hasn't changed since the 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, it could do with, you know, a bit of a wider track, couldn't it, where you can go a bit
then
faster.
If you're going so fast, you'll be down in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen on the golfy. Like someone mentioned to me the other day that there's some big people coming to build a bike park.
That's the word on the street. But you know, as
how many years have we been?
Yeah, I know.
The chairlift petition on Descent World all them years ago was 700 pages long.
Yeah, and at this point, the rumours I heard, I still don't know whether it's going to be golfy side or the other side. You know?
I honestly thought the golfy now would have been more. There'd have been more ground broken for a bike park, but it still hasn't happened.
No. And in some respects, the golf is good as it is.
Yeah,
you know?
I understand. Yeah.
But anyway, so I mean, so obviously you want to be consistent on the podium this season, and then I guess obviously if that starts happening, then you'll be wanting to win again. And
I would love to. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
And have you got, obviously with Champery being world champs again?
Yeah. So we're just doing a deal with Champery as well.
That's a big target this year.
Also, you've got to make the Worlds team. Like the UK Worlds team is no. Like I've never missed it.
Yeah.
But you don't take for granted that you'll be at Worlds. But yeah, it would be good to go there, and I think I could have the best chance of anyone to win down there.
Yeah.
With the confidence I have there. Like I go there and, I'm not going to lie, there's a bit of a chip on my shoulder for obvious reasons. Yeah. Last year for Euros I was loving it. I had a crash, but I know the speed's there, down there. Yeah. So that would be insane to go there and win.
And are you going to have some opportunities to go there before Worlds, do you think?
Hopefully, with the team we need to sit down and arrange it.
Yeah, because that's probably a good place to go and ride in Europe. And what about, as soon as I saw there was going to be a race in Latwila, I thought of you, because I know that's
I've not been there. I saw some stuff and it does look good.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where the downhill track is, but when we've ever raced some enduro there, it's been super steep stuff.
Yeah, I saw like Bernie and Loris had been there, and when they were doing a recce for the track, and it looks awesome to be fair.
Yeah.
But my wife's due a baby on the Monday after that.
Right, so
it'd be good to win there and
then go over to celebrate with a new little one.
Yeah, so
brilliant. And so that's I could go on chatting all day, Dan, but I'll let I know you've got to get
another time.
Yeah. Obviously, all this and downhill stuff and the World Cup and all the World Championships and stuff you've won it. It's probably on par with the e-bike ride we did last night, would you say?
E-bike ride was good.
In the dust.
I'm not sure about
that. So what obviously in the early days your mum and dad did so much for you, taking you all around, but other than your mum and dad, is there anyone that's been sort of the most helpful over your career, would you say?
Well, they obviously started it, and then my wife Sophia is like a massive part of my puzzle.
Yeah.
She's raced motocross, like world championships, so she's not just along for the ride, she knows what it
understands
takes.
It all,
so she's like a harsh critic, and she's a big part of the puzzle, so
she
other
keeps
than
you
that, it's not really like obviously we had Dave Garland who passed away like a couple of years ago now, and he was a big part for a few years there, and so
and what so this bike, just lastly, you probably can't say too much about it, but you're on the new Norco bike, looks super exciting. Is that going to be coming out for production anytime soon?
That's their plan, but they don't exactly have a timeline. It's not like in the next 6 months it's not going to be out there, but they're constantly working on trying to make it the best for when it does go to production. The engineers there are insane. It's like they're always working on things to make it better, and always on the phone, and I'm mainly on the phone with Greg, who's on the phone with them. So so
if you want a little change doing, you can.
Yeah, I had to do some videos for them this morning of things on the bike that they want to work on, and they're always like, considering that bike's a prototype, when you look at it, it doesn't look far off like what a finished product could be. So it's pretty far along.
And obviously at the moment the bike's aluminium. Do you find any difference in an aluminium bike versus a carbon bike?
So last year I was on the carbon GT, and then the previous year I was on carbon cube and alloy cube, and I think I do prefer the alloy. It's much more planted sort of feel, it's like much more forgiving. So
I guess if you get it's easy to make a carbon bike too stiff, and then you feel
it's a fine line. I remember when I went to Mondraker, and the bike's so stiff, and the bike was too stiff, so they had to change the layup of it. But with alloy, that's not so much of a problem.
Cool.
But thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming and spending time, and thanks for that iconic run back in 2011. And
give you the name for your podcast.
Fingers crossed you can pull another one out this summer.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dan. Cheers. Well.